Good morning and welcome to the Game Plan. My name is Gareth, Soloway, Chief Market Strategist, and happy Friday to each and every one of you from VerifiedInvesting.com. All right, so we have some movers and shakers this morning in the pre-market. We're going to look at technical levels to trade. We'll focus on Bitcoin as well as gold, silver, oil, and even natural gas is showing the potential for a little bit of a day trade today as well after filling a key gap. So again, stocks, commodities, crypto, we'll cover it all, including the psychological and education side. All right, follow me over to the big board here. If we take a look at what the markets are doing pre-market, what we can see is we closed right here yesterday. So that's where we closed yesterday. And you can see that we are up a little bit on the day. Now, what's interesting about this, right, is that yes, we're up, but you know what? We were up yesterday. And what did we talk about? We've seen so many times where the markets are opening higher, and then early in the day, we see this selling pressure come in. Yesterday, to be fair, it was pretty much throughout the course of the day. But what does that tell us? It tells us there's this nervousness amongst the smart money, the bigger institutions. They're really not waiting to unload. We saw it into year end. We're seeing it already in January here. All right, so a couple other things to take note of, right? We know that the patterns are bearish. The market breadth, advanced decline, has been atrocious for the last month or two. And again, these are signals that while you're still going to get bounces in the market, you just have to be more prepared. This is a market in 2025 that I think is going to be far more volatile than it was in 2024. Remember, 2024 had some pullbacks, but it was generally up and to the right, right? And again, yeah, you had the August correction. That was kind of the biggest correction we had, which was about 10%, but that was about it for the entire year, and it was a year where the S&P was up over 20% for the second time again in a row. 2 years in a row up over 20%. All right, so markets pre-market are up. We still have our head and shoulders pattern here. We talked about this in yesterday's game plan. For those of you that may not remember, we talked about, again, there's your head and shoulders pattern. Here's your left shoulder, your head, your right shoulder. The neckline is what you're following. We did not crack the neckline yesterday. That neckline is essentially a horizontal line across here. When price trades below it on a daily closing basis, that's when it triggers. Again, yesterday, while we were up early in the day, we closed lower, but we did not trigger the neckline. And then today, same thing. We're up right now. So as of now, it hasn't triggered, but we'll watch to see where it ends. Now, please understand, and I was just talking to my members in Smart Money Stocks about this, is that one of these days, you're going to see the gains hold. All right, whether it's today being a Friday where the big boys want to kind of keep the bullish investor bullish, right? So we have retail that continues to be more bullish than they've ever been, although they're probably starting to doubt a little bit based on the price action. So I don't know if it'll be today, but just keep in mind, the big boys don't want everyone else to start to panic because they have not finished unloading their bigger positions yet. It literally will take months for them to unload into the type of volume we're seeing. Even if there was great volume, they have so much on the long side that it will take some time. All right, so let's go into a couple other charts here as we go through. We have some movers and shakers running around the market. Just taking a quick look at Tesla. Tesla is trading basically flat this morning. Remember, that had those delivery numbers that were down yesterday morning. During the game plan, we saw that thing falling tremendously. Notice the daily chart. Here it is. You had your upsloping parallel channel. We broke it. And now again, yesterday we closed around 379. You have major technical support at 360. As a day trader, yes, I'll be focused on that. Even as a quick swing trade, you might even get a bounce back, let's say to 400 off of that level. But you got to be nimble because I still think Tesla, there is more risk to the downside overall. So watch that 360 level today, guys, right there. Carvana yesterday, we had Hindenburg coming out with a bearish analysis point on it, calling it a fraudish or a Ponzi scheme or whatever. That's the normal thing. So first of all, when you have these big funds or these big firms that are short players, they're always going to come up with a narrative that kind of speaks to driving the price in the direction that they want. Do I think they're a Ponzi scheme? I don't know. Unlikely. Most of them turn out to not be, but it certainly gives them a push in the right direction in their position. Now, if you've been following me and we look back at this chart, we had this all pegged, right? I had the line right here. I even wrote it, and I wrote multiple articles on the financial news on Verified Investing telling people, guys, this is your short signal right here. Down move, it confirmed below the line right here. Here's your bear flag, and look at this thing coming down here. Now, where is this likely going to find major technical support? This would be the first level I would be interested in buying it for a swing trade. This pivot high. Notice how this was kind of continual grind, and then this, once it broke here, it really went parabolic. So the idea is that when you're looking at support, you want to find that level that is kind of the beginning of the parabolic phase being undone, and that would be right around $160. So if 160 is seen on Carvana in the next week or two, that would be a level to watch. U.S. Steel today. U.S. Steel is getting hammered after once again, for the 100th time or so, the U.S. government saying, no, we're not going to be okay with the merger with Nippon Steel, and so that stock is down. It has been a wild ride. You can see the big drops, the big pops, and the big drops, and it is down again today in the pre-market. Now we're trading around $30. Now let's take a look. Where does this become interesting as a swing trade? To be honest, I'm not going to go near it. Maybe at 26.90, this pivot low, more of a day trade. The gap fill here would be my bigger spot as a swing trade down at $22.60 or so. Notice gaps. These gaps, guys, these gaps are key. When they get filled, you usually get a good bounce off of them. I love gap fill trading. The other thing to do is also look for secondary factors, right? And again, I haven't had time to look over this chart enough, but if we just look at certain pivot points, I mean, I'm just curious about this. What if we take a line here? You can see this is a Fibonacci from the low here to the high up here. And if we look at that, the 786 is right around that gap fill, which is helpful as a technician because you're looking for levels that have multiple factors to them. Rigetti made a nice move up yesterday. The key, and this is really interesting, right? So here's the pre-market on Rigetti. It's trading basically slightly lower. But if we go to the daily chart on this, you can see the run. It was kind of topping out. You had a doji, the beginnings of a pullback, and then all of a sudden, we got news that Fidelity had bought an extra 300,000 shares or so. Now, this is the kicker, and I'm going to bring up a chart here that I want to show you, and I'll go to the big board to show you, and I'll put in a trend line here. Let me take away the pre-market data. But this is a level I'm actually watching on Rigetti today for a day trade short, and that would be right up here. So high pivot, pierced, put in a topping tail. That's been negated. But right here at this level here, right around 2170 or so, that'll be a huge level of resistance on Rigetti today. Now, following me over to the big board here, I want to just talk a little bit about this because this just shows the silliness of these type of headlines. So Fidelity says, hey, or they basically had to do a filing. So they didn't even come out and make an announcement. They just did a filing that said, hey, you know, the filing said we picked up another 300,000 shares of Rigetti. But guess when? In the third quarter of 2024. All right, so the third quarter, guys. By the way, what price did they pay? The third quarter is even further back over here when it was basically $1 or under stock. So they basically put $300,000, maybe $250,000 into Fidelity. They already, or Fidelity put into Rigetti. They already owned some shares, so they added to their position. But the kicker is this. The filing was done in the last 24, 48 hours, which is why we know about it. But they bought in the third quarter. Now, they don't have to file anything new and let us know for at least another couple months. So they could have already unloaded. Heck, they could have been unloading yesterday into the run-up and taking a 2,000% gain, and we won't know about it for multiple months. So just keep it in perspective. It's not like they bought yesterday when we were trading at $17, $18, $19 per share. They bought when it was $1 way back over here, and we're just finding out about it now. And for all we know, they were selling into yesterday's uptick in volume. We won't know because the filings don't have to be made public or done for months to come from when they do these trades. All right, so I just want to put that in perspective, right? Just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that Fidelity was buying at $20 a share and is thinking this is going to go up to $50. For all we know, again, they think they could have been selling yesterday. Now, having said that, on a technical basis, we have this level, we have this level, we have this level, and therefore we have this level just below, basically at 2175. All right, couple other stocks that I want to take note of today. We got to look at WBA. So WBA Walgreens Boots, they have earnings next Friday. So a week from today, they will report earnings. I actually continue to like the chart on this, but it's not the point of bringing this up, right? The point of bringing this up is to kind of call out institutions on these shenanigans. What's the shenanigan? Well, here we were trading at around $8, and this was on December 10th. Okay, now options expiration was about a week later. Now, options expiration, one of the things that I've said, and my old business partner, Nick, we always used to talk about this, is that, essentially leading up to options expiration, the institutions play massive, ridiculous games. They will release rumors, even if they're fake, even if they're made up, they will release rumors, right? Now, they're not doing it personally because they could get in trouble for that, but they're doing, this is all of this stuff. Again, I'm revealing secrets. I probably shouldn't, guys, but again, you guys are the best, and I'm always going to do my best to tell you the truth. But my point being is this. Before options expiration, which was like right over here, there was a rumor that WBA might be taken private. The stock goes from $8 to $11 on that day. Now, have we heard even a peep about that since then? No. Why? Because probably the institution sold right into that and said, oh, thanks, this is great. Or they had options, or they did whatever, and they got the stock up. They wanted to get the stock up. They did it. They're done, and it's done. Now, listen, it doesn't mean that won't repopulate. Like, maybe we'll hear about someone looking to take them private. In all fairness, WBA is at a valuation where I think it makes a lot of sense to have a small position in it on the long side. But my point, again, is that this was supposedly there was a company that was interested in taking them private. We heard about it on one particular day. The pop happened, and you have not heard a peep since. And that, to me, is very suspicious. And it should be for all of us as well. So, now having said that, do I like the pattern formation on WBA? Yeah, look at that. What kind of pattern is that, right? There's a trend line here to here. So I actually do like the pattern. And again, because of that, because of the fact that it's trading at basically a forward PE of around 6, this is something that I think is an interesting play in 2025. It's also a January effect play. But I just, more than anything, was calling out that shady behavior, which, by the way, every options expiration, the week before or so, there's almost always one company or two rumors that get floated out, and you'll be like, oh, look, that rumor on that company, like, whatever company it is, you'll be like, oh, wait, it's options expiration in the next week, and you kind of have to discount it and say, okay, it doesn't mean we don't trade it. We can always trade these type of moves, but just be a little suspect about news that hits just before options expiration. All right, on to the next chart here. Let's do RIVN. RIVN getting a pop this morning on the back of delivery numbers. So just like Tesla got crushed yesterday on delivery numbers, RIVN, from what I'm hearing, had good numbers. That stock is popping from $13 to about $14 here. Not a huge percentage move, but if we zoom out, we can see a trend line here that is still causing trouble for the stock. So if it can close above, so look at this, guys. It closed above here. It did not confirm. Right? It failed. Confirmation would have had to have been the second close above. Today, we're trading right at this trend line, basically at 14. Let's see if it closes above. If it closes above, can it confirm? If it confirms, you may get a short-term breakout. The other thing to take a note of here is this actually has an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Inverse head and shoulders are bullish patterns. You can see right here. Here's your head, and here is your shoulder. All right? So again, that's a bullish pattern, which could tell us maybe RIVN's getting ready to make a bigger move to the upside here, but we don't know yet. I would want to see a confirmation breakout above this orange trend line. All right, next up, let's go to Bitcoin today. Bitcoin, again, holding steady right here. If we go over to the big board, Bitcoin right now is basically flat on the day. It actually had a decent day yesterday in spite of the stock market rolling over, which is always nice to see because, again, it shows us that there sometimes can be a variation in price action versus stock market down. Maybe Bitcoin sometimes doesn't go down. It's good to see. Okay. Again, as I said yesterday in the game plan, all we care about is technicians. If you really want to be a true technical trader, you just follow the levels, right? There's no bias, there's no hope, there's no fear, there's no nothing. It is what it is. Support, resistance. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is I want to just speculate, right? So part of being a good trader is saying to me, okay, well, what if this happens? Well, we know Trump is going to be in the White House in about 3+ weeks, right? So there's a little bit of excitement that's going to start to build for the crypto markets that could push Bitcoin up in the near term. I want to show you something here. If we go to the chart and we bring this out, if we go out to the inauguration date, somewhere in the, let's say January 20th to the 30th period, what do we see here? If we take a double top and we drag that across, these two points come right together at around 108,000 on the 19th of January, right before the inauguration, right? And so the idea is, you got to wonder is, could could crypto be grinding up and kind of just chopping like this, right? Maybe we chop like this, and then we kind of go right up into that level, into a double top, and that actually, my friends, if we did that, and we hit this line at the same time you get this line, that would be a shortable level for me as a swing trade for a bigger move to the downside. Now listen, could it break out? Sure it could. And then you just stop out and you move on. But ultimately, two lines crossing, that's always going to be more resistance with price going into it than not. Next up, let's take a quick look at gold today. If we take a look at gold, gold is pulling back ever so slightly. Yesterday was a strong move on gold, right? So gold eclipsed this high. I talked about this in trading the close yesterday, though, as that even though it had a good, strong day, it's not fully out of the woods because you still have this upside down flagpole with inside bar action. So even this move is still kind of within this range here. And then if we just take that away, there's a secondary resistance here to here. And then same thing right up here, you have this underbelly support as well. So you got support 1, support 2, resistance 1, resistance 2. And again, because it's still inside of this flagpole to the downside, sideways chopping, it's not really fully out of the woods yet. In other words, I guess the way to say it would be that, you wouldn't go in and say, oh, this is a really bullish chart. Or vice versa. You wouldn't really go in and say, holy cow, this is a really bearish chart. It's still more in that maybe 55, 45% bullish to bearish. So slightly more bullish because it's holding that lower, longer term trend line. But again, it's not a resounding one way or the other in the near term. Silver, let's look at silver today. So again, if we look at silver, it is up today on the day, so showing relative strength. But notice, again, flat top right here, flat bottom, short term. These are only minor levels, but my point of drawing this in is this is, again, an upside down flagpole, so you're still within that flag pattern. If we started to confirm above this, it would start to change things just a little bit, that we might start to say, okay, maybe we can get a little bit more upside on silver, but the problem is you still run into this trend line sloping down here. That would be your next resistance just underneath 31. Oil, guys, I called that first target perfectly on oil. It is grinding up a little bit today. First target was $73 per barrel. As I've talked about, if we get up to this level around 75, I'd probably start to nibble a little on a short and then add at 78 if we get there. As again, this was, again, so many people were kind of like not understanding this, but if you really understand confirmation, you knew once you confirmed above this yellow line, it became major support. When you don't confirm above a line and you just close above it, it's only minor support. And that's a big difference when deciding what biases or probabilities the chart is going to have. And lastly, natural gas. I kind of teased you guys with a potential for a trade setup here. Take a look. Nat gas had that crazy run up to 406. It has now dumped all the way back, negating that, and we're getting very close to this trend line of support, which is a parallel. So right around 325, if this hits, let's say 325 today, I think you actually play this for at least, if not a day trade, maybe a quick swing trade bounce, maybe a multi-day bounce, just because, again, this is a high-risk trade being natural gas, but again, could be a little play for a bounce off that. But that's an amazing drop. It's about an 18% drop from the high here to where we currently sit on natural gas. And again, I will be watching this in the Apex Live day trading room. Yesterday, by the way, I think we had 9 trades. We went 8 for 9 yesterday. It was a tremendous start to the year. Great profits. I think over 20,000 in profits generated just yesterday alone. And again, this is what we want. We want volatility. Remember, earnings season is starting, not next week, but the week after. Banks will start reporting, then the tech stocks. And earnings season is, that's when even on the game plan, there's like so much to discuss. What stocks are making moves, what levels do we trade today? I give you guys all the game plan essentially for those trades as well. All right, guys. On that note, I got to get to my trading room. Come check us out. There's so many good opportunities at verifiedinvesting.com. Again, free content on the homepage, data center, so much there, stats, charts, you name it. And then also we have all of our offerings for premium subscribers. Check it out. You guys have a great weekend. Can't wait to see you all on Monday for the game plan. You guys have a good weekend. Take care.